Alright, today we're fixing the pressure switch in the well. First thing you want to do is disconnect power to the pump house. For some reason you don't want to get shocked at all. Alright, today we're working in the well house on the pressure switch. First thing you want to do is disconnect the power to the unit. Make sure there's no power going in to the unit at all. Alright, today we're changing the pressure switch in the well. For some reason, I'm getting power when I turn off the pump house. Disconnect, so I'm turning off both of them so I don't get any power to the unit. Got here, nice day on the prairie. I'll go in here, make sure the power is off to the unit, and then we're gonna drain, touch ground in one of the hot leads. No power there, nothing there, nothing there. Nothing there. And these are the leads going to the pump itself, I believe. So we're gonna, next step is to turn off, I should have turned that off first. The one to the house and the pump itself. And then the next step is to drain the system. Alright. And we drain the tank, leave all the pressure in the tank, and then we'll put the new pressure switch in and the new pressure gauge, as this one is pretty corroded. Yeah, I was having problems the other day. It was getting pretty cold out and it was constantly sticking open and the contacts weren't closing, so I'm just going to change out the pressure switch and eliminate the problem. The check valve works properly, and I'll come back to you here in a second. Alright, so we're here getting ready to pull the pressure release valve to drain the pressure out of the unit. Might take a while. I use the crummiest hose I can find, I guess. There we go. Well, it's the only one I had that wasn't frozen, so we'll watch that drain down, and let it drain down, and then we'll change the pressure switch. Might take a while. It's about a 40-gallon tank, so yeah. Well, come to find out, it's pretty much drained out, and my pressure gauge wasn't working. It's stuck on it a little above 40. It's a good thing I bought a new pressure switch. All the water's out of there. It's not coming out, and my gauge is not moving, so therefore I know my gauge isn't working. Like I said, I thought it was. We'll replace the pressure gauge and the pressure switch and get it back up and running and pressurize the tank. Once again, yeah, do it while it's warm out and make sure there's no power to the unit before servicing, taking off the leads. And alright, so we got the old pressure gauge off of there. Installed the new one. Try to get the bottom hex plug out. Wasn't able to. I'll have to replumb the whole thing probably when it's summertime. I just don't have time for it today. I took off the old one. Notice there's a bunch of sediment underneath of it. That's why it wasn't working properly. And it probably got sediment into the gauge itself, or scale or something, into the gauge. So you can see the water is really hard up here on the components. And then now we're going to take off the pressure switch, or take off the leads, install a new pressure switch. You always want to use Teflon tape while installing parts for water so you don't get any leaks. Once again, always check power to make sure it's off. Even though you hit the brake, or sometimes somebody could have wired it in differently to a different circuit. So you always want to check the wires before you take them off. Any electrical component. Alright, we got the new bar on, installing the pressure switch. And you want to make sure you get Teflon tape on there so you don't have a leak. So I was reading the tank here and it said it's for cut on 40, cut out 60 PSI. So that's the one I put on. Decided not to use the 3050, which was the one that was on here. I bought both of them at the Stan's Mary Mart just to be safe. I didn't want to have to go all the way back to Wenatchee here from OMAC. And we'll get this wired in. Put on there nice and tight. Any loose connections. Make sure you got a good tight connection on there. Purple ones go on the outers. Start with the one on the inside a little first. Seems a little bit more of a pain if you have the one on outer one in there first. Once again, you always want to wear safety glasses for eyeball protection, just in case something flies in your eye, and you have something there to protect it. I'm not sure why only put a 3050 on here. Go with the proper one that the tank calls for. And alright, so I got all these leads nice and tight, connections nice and tight. Good old 1-2 torque test. And alright, so we have this all hooked up here. The new pressure gauge is at 0 PSI. close the valve on the tank, fill the tank up full. You want to fill it, this little valve right here, 2 psi underneath the cut on pressure. So for this one I'll put 38 psi in there. That's what was recommended. And then it will cut on at 40, cut out at 60, and we have our new pressure gauge. Pressure switch, everything wired in properly. I guess I could fix this a little bit. You know, fix the connections a little bit, line them up so they don't arc out on each other. Once again, we'll pressurize this tank to 38 psi. Alright, got power going to the pressure switch. Pressure's building up. Check it with my fluke. This is my final for Professor Jordan's electricity class at Wenatchee Valley College. So everything's working, no leaks, and it should shut off at 60 psi. Cut back on at 40. And that's my pressure switch adventure.